Hey guys, welcome back to more Karen stories. In this video, a neighbor called the police because I washed my pickup truck in my driveway and she insisted that I am a criminal. In the second story, I got my neighbor arrested after she falsely claimed that I kidnapped my own children. The first one is titled, My dumb neighbor, 33 female, calls 911 when I, 27 male, wash my pickup truck in my driveway. So I've been having a crazy experience when it comes to my new neighbor. As luck would have it, we moved in during the same week about a year ago. She was pleasant enough, we were both just focused on doing our own things, which I was fine with. I work out of town as a consultant, so much of my time is spent hopping from plane to plane, city to city. I still make it home most months for about a week, and during these weeks over the past year, that's how I've been learning all about my neighbor. Let's call her Amelia for purposes of clarity. Anyway, Amelia began to earn herself a reputation in the neighborhood as a real pain, questioning everyone on what they are doing, asking them far too personal of questions, and just being all around antagonistic. I learned all of this from going to a community potluck. Once people learned that I lived next to Amelia, they would roll their eyes, pat me on the shoulder, and wish me good luck. I did not think too much of it, she had not done anything to me at this point, so I gave her the benefit of the doubt, and I figured she was just a very sensitive person. Another important point of context for this story is my truck. I love my truck. It's a 1975 Mazda Repu, only a few thousand were ever produced, and my dad was lucky enough to have one. He left it to me when he passed, and to honor him, I keep malicious care of that thing. Since I was only home for a little bit of time each month, I made sure to take it for a drive and give it a hand washing. On one such day, Amelia must have been feeling extra spiteful. It was a beautiful summer day, slight breeze, not too hot and not too cold, just perfect to handle the truck wash. Part of my job is dealing with advertising environmentally friendly practices for businesses, so I practice like I preach. I use specialty soaps, my pressure washer is electric, and I even make sure to use a low water tip the whole 9 yards. Anyway, back to Amelia though, I'm about halfway through my routine when I see her face sneering at me through her window. I try to ignore it, but then her front door explodes open. She's stumbling as she is fighting to get her shoes on her feet. I pretend to ignore her as I assume she is just being the usual Amelia. This is until I see she is headed my way. She is stalking like a lioness that is about to pounce on her prey. She stomps right by me and turns off my pressure washer and stands with her arms crossed. "You cannot be serious," she draws out, and stares at me, expecting me to know exactly what she is talking about. "What?" I replied, looking around me puzzled. "It is Sunday afternoon and you are out here making a racket with that obnoxious pressure washer." She waves about with her arms exaggeratedly. I furrow my brow at her, "This pressure washer? This electric pressure washer that barely makes any noise at all?" I reply slowly like I am talking to a child, which I may as well be. Flustered, she changes the topic instead, fumbling over her words before saying, "And the wastewater? Are you serious? People like you are why this planet is falling apart." I'm stunned, staring at her blankly. I open my mouth to reply, but she interrupts me using a mocking tone. "Oh, look at me. Let me drain the whole town's water just so I can have a fancy truck," she scouts at me. "Amelia, I try again to explain myself, but again, she butts in again. And what kind of person obsesses over a truck anyway? I'm guessing you're overcompensating for something, huh?" I watch as her eyes look me up and down, and then she frowns. "Look, Amelia, I don't want to fight with you." I'm using every ounce of patience I have to try and diffuse the situation after the hail of insults. I gesture over to the pressure washer. "This thing is dead quiet. It's a beautiful Sunday afternoon, and the soap I use is specially biodegradable." I hold the jug up so she can see. The nozzle is a water-efficient one. I shrug my shoulders in defeat. And the truck is my dad's. It's the last thing I have of him. On that last one, I see the insult she had primed in her through fizzles out. She becomes flustered, scoffing at me, at herself, I'm not sure. She finally manages to spit something out after a long, awkward pause. "You think you can spit all these little lies trying to make me feel bad, huh? And expect me to just say, 'Oh, poor you, keep going'? No." Her form is back again, standing, tall arms crossed, chin held high, like some pious warrior. I'm only going to ask one more time, stop or I will call the police. She stomps away, leaving me stunned beside my truck. Without a second thought, before she makes it back to her door, I flick the pressure washer back on, put my headphones in and get back to work. She actually screams, a scream of bottled rage like a toddler. I see she's standing on her doorstep and yelling something obscene at me. I smile and wave. This only drives her over the edge as she storms into her house. But Amelia was not done with me, not even close. At this point I had finished with the pressure washing and had moved to the polishing, when I see red and blue flashing lights around the corner at the end of the street. I already know exactly what's happening here, so I sigh and begin dusting off my hands and toss my rag over my shoulder as the squad car pulls up out front of my property. Amelia comes bursting from her home again, panting out of breath. "Officers, I'm so glad you're here. This is the vagrant I was telling you about." As she points a crooked finger in my direction, she raises her eyebrows at me. "You got me, officer. Take me away. I've been a bad man," I reply sarcastically. The officer tries to speak to understand the situation before Amelia actually cuts the man off. "He is wasting water in a drought. And he's bothering the entire neighborhood with that awful machine." She is pointing frantically now, her finger shooting all over at me, the truck, the officer. Nothing is safe. The officer straightens up, putting his hand into his pocket as he listens to her rattle on for the next few minutes. When it looks like Amelia has run out of steam, the officer shoots me a look as if to say, "This is insane." He finally speaks. "Are you done, ma'am?" he asks calmly. She looks shocked. "Why don't you have this guy in handcuffs already?" Her face is becoming red again, like a giant pimple ready to pop. "Look, ma'am," the officer returns, "there's no drought policy in place first and foremost. Secondly, by the looks of this here, the soap bottle, this is biodegradable. Look, it says so right on the bottle." He points exaggeratedly so that Amelia can see. He is not breaking any noise laws and he is well within his rights to be out here on a gorgeous Sunday taking care of his vehicle, ma'am. At this point, the crowd of neighbors is growing across the street. They whisper among themselves and snicker in Amelia's direction. If she was not mad before, she is sure mad now. Amelia is the kind of woman that doesn't settle for not getting her way, so she resorts to desperation. "This man is a danger to society, officers. He is an eco-terrorist. And if you're not gonna do anything about it, I'm gonna need your name and badge number right now. You're a waste of taxpayer dollars." She stands with her arms crossed and a smug look on her face, thinking that she has checkmated this officer. He approaches her now, taking a handful of steps forward, and with each and every one, Amelia sinks smaller and smaller. He speaks coolly and calmly to Amelia. "Ma'am, this man has done nothing wrong. He is following all laws to the letter, and I would say he is doing a better job than half this neighborhood. But you know what is illegal? Filing a false emergency." "Are you threatening me, officer?" Her eyes narrow in his direction, filled with hate for the man and this entire situation. The officer turns around now, walking away from Amelia. "Not a threat, ma'am, just a fact. I'll be filing a warning for you. The next time you call in a report on any of your neighbors and it turns out to be a waste of time like this, you will be charged." The neighbors across the street at this point have gotten braver and shout across the street. "Hey officer, take a look at Amelia's sprinkler, she's good going. I think it's been on all day." The officer is trying hard now to contain his smile and Amelia looks about ready to explode. They are in fact right, because Amelia cares very much about how her house looks, and that includes having the most perfect green lawn. To have that, you need to use far more water than my pressure washer does. The officer turns on his heels to look at Amelia, making a shocked expression. Her face is twisted and puckered as if she just tasted something incredibly sour. The officer turns to look at me now. "It's a beautiful truck, sir. I think you should give another wash. I think you missed a spot." He shoots me a wink before stepping back into his police car and then pulling away. At this point, I felt extremely vindicated, and so I did as I was told and flicked my pressure washer back on while staring Amelia into the eyes. You heard the man. I missed a spot. I would not want to break the law. I think she's about to short circuit before storming back into her house. Now it's about a month later and I'm home again from work and beginning my routine. Pulling up to my house, I have to snicker as I see that Amelia has rented the biggest gas-powered pressure washer I've ever seen. She is washing down her own driveway and the water is cascading down in heavy sheets, and I see a bottle of one of those insane grease-cutting soaps sitting beside it. A large skull and crossbones in the bottom of the label, but like a good neighbor, I stick to my business. I walk inside and I swear I feel the windows shake as that monster rumbles outside. I let out a chuckle as I started to bring my own washing supplies out. Then I pull my truck out of the garage, put my headphones in and flick on my washer. She glances over from her driveway but pretends like I don't exist. Her eyes dart back as soon as she recognizes the irony of the situation. It is at this point that we both notice the squad car coming around the corner. Her face drops into a look of horror and I'm just left smiling. The same officer steps out putting his hands on his car before saying, "I got a noise complaint about an eco-terrorist." And now let's move on to a story where an insane neighbor gets arrested because she claimed that OP kidnapped his own children. You don't want to miss this one. So I, 38 male, never thought I would be writing this kind of post, but after everything that's happened, I need some outside perspective. This is a long story, but I promise it is worth reading. Some background: I'm a single dad with primary custody of my 2 kids, Tommy 9 and Sarah 7. Their mom lives in California and gets them during summer breaks and some holidays. We have been divorced for 5 years, and while it was not always smooth sailing, we have worked out a good co-parenting relationship. I work from home as a software developer, which lets me be there for my kids before and after school. The trouble started when Karen, not her real name but might as well be, moved in next door about 8 months ago. She is the HOA president and takes her role very seriously. From day one she seemed to have a problem with me being a single dad. She would make these passive-aggressive comments about how children need their mom and how it was not natural for a man to raise kids alone. At first I tried to be polite and said, their mom is very much in their lives. I would explain. But we just live in different states. But Karen would not let it go. She started watching us constantly. I would catch her peeking through her blinds when I was playing with the kids in our backyard, and she would question my children at the bus stop about their mom, which made them uncomfortable. One day Tommy came home upset because Karen had told him it was not normal that he lived with his dad instead of his mom. That is when I decided to confront her directly. I went to her house and knocked on her door. When she answered, I kept my voice calm but firm. Karen, I need you to stop questioning my children about their mom. It is inappropriate and it's upsetting them. She put on this concerned expression that made my skin crawl. I'm just worried about their welfare. Children should not be separated from their mothers. My custody arrangement is none of your business, I told her. Please leave my family alone. She sniffed. Well, as HOA president, the welfare of this neighborhood is my responsibility. The HOA has nothing to do with my custody arrangement. This is your final warning. Stop harassing my children. I thought that would be the end of it, but I was wrong. The next week, she filed a complaint with the HOA about my unkempt yard, it wasn't by the way, and my unauthorized basketball hoop. It was approved before she even became president. I addressed these complaints through proper channels, providing documentation that proved her wrong. This seemed to make her even more determined to cause problems. Things escalated when my ex-wife came to visit for Tommy's birthday in March. She stayed at a hotel nearby and came over daily to help with party preparations. Karen saw her coming and going from my house and apparently decided that this was suspicious. The day after my ex left, I was working in my home office while the kids were at school when I heard shouting outside. I looked out my window to see multiple police cars with lights flashing in front of my house. Before I could process what was happening, my doorbell rang. I opened it to find several officers with their hands on their weapons. "Sir, we need you to step outside with your hands where we can see them." I complied immediately, my heart pounding. And that is when I saw Karen standing in her driveway with a satisfied smirk on her face. One officer explained that they had received a report that I had abducted 2 children from their mother and was holding them against their will. The caller had claimed to have proof that the children's mother had tried to rescue them yesterday, but that I had forced her to leave. I remained calm and explained the situation. My ex-wife was here yesterday for our son's birthday party. I have primary custody of our children. I can prove everything. I slowly reached for my phone with their permission and then called my ex-wife, putting her on speaker. She confirmed everything and was horrified that someone had claimed I had kidnapped our own children. I also showed them our custody agreement, which I thankfully keep scanned on my phone. The officers quickly realized that this was a false report, but they still had to do their due diligence. They called my ex-wife back separately and contacted the children's school to verify their attendance and custody arrangements. Throughout all of this, Karen stood watching from her yard, her smug expression gradually turning to concern as she realized that things were not going her way. Once the officers confirmed everything was in order, one of them asked if I knew who might have made the false report. I pointed to Karen and explained her history of harassment. They went to speak with her and I could see her getting increasingly agitated as they questioned her. That evening, 2 different officers came to take my statement about Karen's ongoing harassment. They explained that making a false report about a kidnapping is a serious crime and that swatting, calling in a false emergency to provoke a heavy police response, is a felony in our state. I provided them with everything: Ring doorbell footage of her confronting me, emails she had sent to the HOA about me, screenshots of texts from other neighbors about her behavior, and my children's statements about her questioning them at the bus stop. I also had footage from my security cameras showing my ex-wife's peaceful visits during Tommy's birthday. Then the next day I got a frantic email from Karen's husband begging me to drop the charges. I had not pressed any yet, the police were pursuing this on their own, and apparently Karen had a history of this behavior in their previous neighborhood which they had to leave suddenly. He claimed that she was just concerned and did not mean any harm. I replied with a single sentence: "Your wife tried to have my children taken away from me." Karen was arrested the following day. During the investigation, they discovered that she had made similar false reports about 3 other families in her previous neighborhood, and she is currently facing multiple felony charges for swatting and false reporting, plus charges related to harassing minors. The real karma though, the HOA board immediately removed her as president and is now investigating every complaint she has filed since taking the position. It turns out she's been using her position to harass several other families too, particularly single parents and mixed-race couples. Here is where I might be the a-hole. After her arrest, I filed a civil lawsuit against Karen and her husband for emotional distress and harassment. Some neighbors think that this is overkill, saying her criminal charges are punishment enough. Her husband lost his job due to the publicity of the case, and they are probably gonna lose their house too. My ex-wife supports my decision, but some people in the neighborhood think that I'm being cruel by supposedly destroying their lives over this. The lawsuit is still pending, but Karen is facing 2 to 5 years in prison for the swatting and false reports. Her previous victims have also come forward, which might increase her sentence. So Reddit, am I the a-hole for pursuing this to the fullest extent of the law instead of showing mercy? Edit, thank you for all the responses. And by the way, Ripe Stars, before I read the responses, please let me know what you think about this. Do you think OP was the a-hole in this situation or not? I would say he definitely did the right thing. This Karen was absolutely despicable, and honestly, anyone making false police reports with the intention to get someone swatted are just the lowest of the low. This can easily get someone killed, so there's no way to take this lightly. I fully support OP in what he did. Let me know what you think in the comments. OP further said, since some people are asking, yes, my kids are in therapy to deal with this. They are doing better now that Karen is gone, but it was scary for them to see the police swarm our house, and they are still processing everything that happened. By the way, a few people asked about the HOA investigation results, and they found that Karen had filed over 30 bogus complaints in just 8 months, mostly targeting single parents, mixed-race couples, and families with adopted children. By the way though, the HOA has apologized to everyone affected and is implementing new policies to prevent such kind of abuse of power. And some people in the comments said, not the a-hole, she tried to have your children taken away from you, she terrorized your family for months and she traumatized your children. Actions have consequences and she is facing the appropriate ones for her actions. Don't feel bad for holding her accountable, not the a-hole, she swatted you, people have died from swatting accidents. She also put your life in danger and tried to use the police to kidnap your children. And well, maybe that goes a little bit too far in my opinion, the comment I mean. Anyway, she deserves every consequence coming her way. And another person said, not the a-hole times 1000, I'm a police officer and swatting calls are incredibly dangerous for everyone involved. Officers respond to reported kidnappings with the highest level of caution and force because we believe children are in danger. She could have gotten you killed. Press every charge possible. And now a last update to the story that reads like this. I want to keep this short and sweet. My lovely neighbor Karen ended up in prison for what she did. And what lesson did we learn today, kids? Don't try to get people swatted for no reason. You will lose your freedom. don't be an idiot like Karen. And before I let you guys leave, we will read one short and sweet petty revenge story that is super satisfying. This one is titled "Cab Driver Drips Me to Shreds, Thinking I Cannot Understand Him, But I Can." Obligatory, this happened several years ago, a few months after I had moved to Chicago. So I had moved here from Romania, where I'd been living and going to school. I love Romania, the people are great, drop what you're doing and visit. Anyway, while I was there due to my living situation, I had to learn the language fast and thoroughly. Not many people around me spoke English, and outside of the university especially so. Fast forward to the few months after I arrived in Chicago, imagine my surprise when the driver of the Uber I had ordered appeared to have a Romanian name. The area had a lot of Eastern Europeans, so I guess it shouldn't have been so surprising. I was really excited to talk to him and make sure that I was not getting rusty with my Romanian and maybe even make a friend. Up pulls the guy, I get in, he greets me, but he appears to be on the phone with a buddy/family member, so I just sit quietly in the back, listening in a bit. The person on the other end asks if the driver is getting off work soon. He responded with something like the following: "No, I still have a few hours left and then I'll go home. Right now I have someone in the car. Damn, I hate this country. The women here are so fat and ugly. At least this one has a nice chest, but why can't she lose some weight?" And he goes on and on about all the problems with me and other American women. Now, I have always been on the chunky side, and you best believe the Romanians love to comment on it, so I was used to it, but I was a bit shocked that this guy was going off like that. Anyway, I'm just kind of sitting bemused in the backseat as we are nearing my destination. Then I tell him, in Romanian, with all my might trying to pull off the distinct accent of the region I'd been living in, "Can you just pull over there, on the right?" I swear, this guy's head did the Exorcist girl head move, and he turned a shade of red I've seen nowhere else in nature. He did not say anything, he just pulled over, and when I got out I said thanks and added, "You're not attractive, and you're also fat, so maybe you should not make comments like that." I have never again reached such levels of self-pride. If you enjoyed the video, please post some star emojis in the comments, and I will see you again tomorrow.